So The Witcher 4 is now in full production. We just got news of that by the Chief Financial Officer of CD Projekt Red, Piotr Nilubovic. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Let me know if I'm wrong. Who said that he's pleased to announce that several weeks ago it moved into full-scale production. We also got on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, game director Sebastian Kalimba also said that he's thrilled to announce that Project Polaris, which is the code name for The Witcher 4, has entered the full-scale production phase and posted this little picture of a coin related to the game in some way, related to lore, what have you, and says even that we will see the other side of the coin at some point in the future. So I kind of want to talk about what I want The Witcher 4 to be, what I think should be in it, and the different ideas that could go into it. So a little background is that I absolutely adore The Witcher 3. It is easily in my top 15 games of all time. Sometimes on some days it'll crack top 10, sometimes it won't. Really depends on the day. I just thought that the world was beautiful. I loved the characters. I really loved the story. Geralt's a great main character. And the only thing that I thought it lacked was really the combat. I thought the combat was a little repetitive, a little boring, a little too easy. I played that game on the highest difficulty, and after a few levels, I kind of just repeated the same thing. You could very easily just strafe around enemies and not have a lot of problem. But overall, I mean, the side quests are really push that game to the max level, and all the different things that you would encounter, the different people you would encounter, the cool side quests that just really reminded me of what makes the best kinds of open world games that I love so much. It's going to be the side quests that I remember for years to come. So obviously, I think Witcher 4 should have some of that. Now, The Witcher 4 is said to be a start of a new trilogy that was announced in 2022 by the director Sebastian Kalimba. Obviously, that could change depending on how things go, but as of now, we have to kind of operate under the assumption that it being a new trilogy will stay. So everything I talk about in this video is going to factor in those two other games that, you know, obviously aren't being worked on yet. Now, obviously, The Witcher as like a brand has grown pretty significantly since Witcher 3 came out. Witcher 3 already kind of took the Witcher brand, which is kind of niche. You know, it had the books, which had a big following for like book readers, and Witcher 1 and 2 had somewhat of a following, but Witcher 3 really thrust it into the mainstream and made it a household name. And since then, I mean, obviously the books continue to see their sales piggybacking off the success of the video game. Witcher 3 obviously was a huge hit. The Netflix show brought in a ton of people into the Witcher franchise, and they're even working on a Witcher 1 remake, soon to be announced or released at some point in time. And to be quite honest, it really needed the facelift. I'm just going to be honest here. So the question really becomes, how do you continue the success of The Witcher as a franchise, especially when it comes to the video game? So the very first thing I think that has to be addressed is, what about Geralt? Like, do you need Geralt in the series? Geralt's pretty old, and we've played with him and seen his story for a long time now. I mean, every single Witcher book, every single season of the Witcher show, every single game has been about Geralt, with some parts here and there where we're split off with other characters like Yennefer or Ciri. But for the most part, it's Geralt's show. And so, do you need to keep Geralt a central part of The Witcher, or can it survive without him? I'm not sure Geralt would be the great choice to lead another trilogy. He is older, and I think he had a pretty good end to his story with the end of Witcher 3. Now, obviously, there were a couple different endings you could get, but, I mean, you can kind of make up whatever canon ending you want for the end of that game, and then have Geralt retire. I don't think we need to play as Geralt, or at least I don't think he needs to be a main character, right? I mean, I personally, I think if I had to choose, the obvious pick is like Ciri, right? You make Ciri the main character. You got to play as her a little bit in Witcher 3, so it seems like the bones of what her combat would look like are there, and that would be pretty awesome, because her moveset in Witcher 3, I honestly wanted to play more of her because it was really fun. So I think it's like a pretty obvious direction to move into, but there is another thing you could do if you don't want to deal with the different endings part. You don't want to try to create a canon version. You don't want to even involve or like have Geralt be around, because I'm thinking if you played as Ciri, maybe Geralt's around, you just don't play as him, or you play as him in a limited role. I don't know. But you can circumvent all of that by maybe making your own custom character. Now, I don't know exactly how that would work. Maybe you don't set it in the modern era with Ciri and Geralt and Dandelion and all those characters that we know and love. Maybe you set it in the past. You know, The Witcher has a long history, rich lore world that maybe CD Projekt Red should explore on their own and make their own Witcher group. Create your own Witcher that predates Geralt, or maybe even goes further into the future from Geralt and Ciri. Doesn't really matter. Just in a timeline that is separate from those characters so that there's no baggage. You're not expecting them to show up or anything like that. You can start fresh with a brand new idea that has a Witcher paint coating on it. I think that could open the door for a lot of cool and free and interesting story ideas and different ideas for even gameplay, because you're not restricted to, you know, who Geralt is or what Ciri's power sets are. You can make something completely new. I think that could be pretty interesting, but honestly, either way they go about it, I think could work. I just am not super excited if they make Geralt the main character again, unless it's like a, let's say, God of War Ragnarok situation, which, spoilers for God of War Ragnarok, if you haven't played it, make sure you play it before you hear what I'm about to say. Maybe it's like a Atreus Kratos situation where it's pretty half and half throughout the whole game and kind of sets up Atreus to be the next main character. And then the next game will be Ciri, or in God of War's case, Atreus. Though we don't actually know if Atreus would be the main character, but you kind of get what I'm saying, right? Use Geralt to set up Ciri as the next main character. Could work, I guess, but I kind of feel like they already did that with Witcher 3 already, because you could play as Ciri, so we'll see. We'll see. Now, Witcher 3 came out in 2015, so assuming that Witcher 4 doesn't come out next year and it's going to take a few more years, it's going to be well over a decade since the last Witcher game. So there's been a lot of good RPGs and open world games to come out since then. So which one should they learn from? I think very first thing is they should definitely learn from Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or Tears of the Kingdom, and Elden Ring, right? Those two revolutionized the open world genre and really just took the world by storm. I mean, the way that exploration works in those games, without having like quest markers, without having like specific markers on the map, Ubisoft style, where you're just kind of taking off a checklist, like just going, seeing something in the distance and just going to it without anything saying like, yes, this is a thing and you know what you're going to get here. Super awesome. Like, that is the kinds of open worlds that I love the most now, where you can just explore the world, walk around and look at all the beauty that's around you, take in all the sights, pick and choose where you go based on what looks interesting rather than what's a symbol on your map that you know you should do because it gets you good stuff. I think that's really important, especially because there are times when you play Witcher 3 and you're kind of staring at that minimap. You know what I'm saying? Like, the game is gorgeous, and when you really stop to look at everything, it still holds up now. It is a beautiful game. But I feel like a lot of it can be taken up and ignored when you have this tracker on your minimap telling you which directions to go and making you follow a path, and you're trying to make sure you stay on that path by watching that minimap. I feel like you can zero in on that minimap really easily. Honestly, hot take the minimap away. Let it go. It's gone. Take the minimap away. Who needs it? I don't need it. You know what? I would be fine if you even just did the waypoint compass system, like say in Skyrim, where you just have the bar on the top, and if you want to put like a quest marker here or whatever, you can do that. But it's not like you don't have a golden path literally shining before you to take you places. There's just directions, and you can just pick that. And maybe there are symbols on there that tell you like this is a cave, so maybe you want to go do that, or maybe you don't. Whatever. But just don't have this golden path that I feel like I need to follow to make sure I get to my destination. Don't make that a temptation. Take that thing out and let me just have to live in this world. Let me just have to, you know, like take in all of the sights. I don't know if they need to go full blown like Ghost of Tsushima, where you're hearing the wind blow and it goes in a different direction and that's where you go. If they want to do that, that's cool, but I don't think it's necessary. I think just doing like a Skyrim compass system or something like that, or just taking out the minimap would be good enough. Combat has to be better. Witcher 2 is one of the most underrated games in my opinion, and is not talked about enough. Everyone's played Witcher 3, not enough people have played Witcher 2, and I absolutely love that game's combat. That is the only Witcher game so far out of all of the three that I felt like actually made me feel like a Witcher. Having to prepare before I know I'm about to go fight this giant monster, right? Having to actually learn the alchemy system, create potions, create oils for your weapon, put them on, drink the potion, get yourself prepared to go and fight that monster after you've hunted it down. It felt super cool and it felt really impactful. Witcher 3, again, I played it on the hardest difficulty, so I feel like I can talk about this. I didn't feel like it was necessary. Like, I would use the oils every once in a while, but like, you could just circle strafe around guys and hit. I mean, that's really all there was to it. It wasn't that, in depth. It wasn't that dangerous where I felt like I needed to use potions or I needed to use oils. So I really think that that's going to be a huge thing. Making potions matter, making alchemy matter, making me feel like I am a Witcher. And honestly, even if you don't do that, just make it a little bit more entertaining, just a little bit, right? Like, Skyrim can kind of get away with, and really a lot of the Bethesda games, Oblivion, all that stuff, they can get away with having like mediocre combat because they're like first-person games. They're very much like, how do you say, the combat is very loose in the first place, whereas Witcher feels like it's going for a more tighter feel. Like the way the camera is centered, the way Geralt moves around, the locking on to enemies and strafing around them, dodge rolling, blocking, parrying. It feels a lot more Souls-y than something like a Skyrim that's a lot more hack and slash, like whatever, go in a dungeon, blow stuff up. So if you're going to lean in that direction, I think go all the way, right? Like, make me feel like I need to do a lot of extra stuff to progress or like to fight a big monster. I need to feel threatened by these big monsters rather than just blow through them because I dodge rolled around them 50 times and hit them until they died. And on that note, monster hunting should be more prominent. Monster hunting was fine in Witcher 3. I liked it to the extent that it was. But it really just kind of boiled down to Geralt finding something on the ground, sniffing it, licking it, whatever, follow it, go find another thing on the ground, follow it, find another thing on the ground, follow it. There's a cave, there's a monster, right? Very basic stuff. I would really like if it got a little bit more in depth. Like, I'm not sure exactly how they would implement it. I don't know if there would need to be like a detective system, or maybe something like Monster Hunter does this thing, a similar thing where you have to find like the tracks, you see the footprints and stuff like that, or the body parts that have fallen off. And after you've gathered enough of that, you've built up a sort of knowledge of the creatures, and then you can follow them around. Maybe you do that. Maybe you make pieces of creatures and monsters fall off. I think that's just a good thing. Get that from Dragon's Dogma. Get that from Monster Hunter. Great system to add into Witcher. Adds a lot of cool, fun dynamics to combat that I think could really benefit it. And just make monsters more prevalent. Like, I want to feel like, again, the whole core, I think, here is to make me feel like a Witcher. And if you can make monster hunting feel like I'm actually like putting forth effort to hunt and to learn about the monsters and to fight them, like maybe if I pick up enough of the monsters' parts, or I kill enough of them or something like that, maybe I earn more knowledge from the codex that tells me that they're weak to this or that. And then if they're very difficult, using alchemy to exploit it, something like that. Bring Gwent back. One of the best parts about Witcher 3, got a whole spin-off card game just like by itself that people adore. Bring Gwent back. Really nothing more to say here. I mean, you can see here, like, I love card games. I love like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that. Got my Yu-Gi-Oh cards up there and stuff. So bring Gwent back. I'll be running around. I'll be collecting all the cards. I'll be playing it. I'll be battling up against every NPC I can find. Bring it back. Easy inclusion. Gotta bring it back. Keep the side quests as they are. Like I said, the best part about Witcher 3 was the side quests and exploring the world and running into random people with random problems that we help solve, running into a random town that has some weird mystery happening or some weird goofy thing happening that we have to figure out. Best part about Witcher 3, keep that as it is. And the whole vibe, I say retain it from Witcher 3. Witcher 3 had this vibe of like dirty, but also beautiful, right? It had bright colors at times. It had vivid landscapes. It had really, really beautiful landscapes, but also there were like bodies hanging from the trees and wet, dried blood on the ground and crows pecking at eyeballs and stuff like that to remind you that, yes, nature is beautiful and the world can be beautiful, but also this place sucks and like people are bad and like crappy things happen and people get hanged and stuff like that. Witcher has an inherent dark, dirty grittiness to it that should be maintained, because that's why it's such a surprise when you play the DLCs and you get to that really bright, like overly fantasized land in one of the DLCs, and it's a shock because even though Witcher 3 is bright, colorful, and beautiful, it's still really grimy, and that place has like no dirt, it's all shine. So I think keeping that kind of dirt, that kind of like blemish onto the world is really important for keeping the atmosphere truly The Witcher. And so that's kind of all I want right now. As far as I'm thinking of it, I think combat should be better. I think the side quests should stay as they are. I think you should keep the atmosphere of making things beautiful, but also keeping it grimy. I think the open world should do without a mini map and maybe even without icons, but if you're going to use them, do a Skyrim thing rather than having like a golden path to follow. I'm okay with playing as Geralt, but only if you're setting up a new character for the rest of the trilogy. Preferably, I'd rather play a series from the start or make our own Witcher. Either one works. And I think that monster hunting should be a major part in The Witcher. I think that they should feel important and you should feel like a Witcher. And all the gameplay mechanics should center around making you feel like a Witcher. What do you guys think? What would you guys want in The Witcher 4? I am super excited for The Witcher. Super excited to see what comes out of CD Projekt Red after they've learned everything from what happened with Cyberpunk and what happened with the success of Cyberpunk afterward with Phantom Liberty. I'm curious to see what they end up coming up with Witcher 4, but time will tell. You guys got to let me know in the comments what you guys would want. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Let's talk later.